And welcome back to another episode of Building the Board. My name is Quinten Krzysko. You can find me on Twitter at BuckHisStats. I am joined by Steve Letizia at CFC Bears on Twitter. Steve, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing great. A month away from the draft, so we're getting into it. I'm getting into the weeds of like the day three guys now. So that's my favorite part of the draft. So yeah, it couldn't be better.
Yeah, you've been getting in the weeds on some of these guys who I've never heard of, and that's
Yeah.
quite impressive at this point. Where I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of that guy yet. But folks, we are here tonight to talk about some of the best fits in the draft for our Chicago Bears, and specifically, we're going to be talking about running backs, tight ends, offensive line, defensive tackle, an edge rusher, and hopefully get you guys a mock draft at the end of the episode. Maybe we'll just fly through one, but Steve, let's start this off with running backs. And so when you're looking at these running backs, what are your thoughts on like how something fits the offense the Bears are going to have? Because clearly there's a need there, but like what are you seeing and who kind of fits what you're looking for?
Yeah. So I mean, DeAndre Swift obviously wasn't good enough last year. So it's obviously a need. You can have some hope that maybe it was a scheme thing, and with Ben Johnson, DeAndre Swift can kind of get back to where he was a few years ago. But I think regardless of your opinion on DeAndre Swift, the Bears need a running back. And with Ben Johnson, again, we don't know exactly what scheme he's going to be running, what he's going to be doing, what he has up his sleeve, but we have a general idea. I think free agency gave us a really good idea of what they're going to run. We were kind of talking about this before. You don't sign Drew Dahlman for $14 million a year unless you're committing to running a pretty heavy zone, specifically wide zone scheme. Obviously not going to run 100% outside zone, but with that guy in the fold, that's what he does. That's why you gave him that money. That's what he did in Atlanta. You're going to do the same thing in Chicago. So I'm looking at guys who, are more athletic. I'm looking for guys who can just kind of maybe just have plant their foot on the ground and get upfield quickly. Guys with that burst, kind of get to the line. And there's a lot of guys I think in this draft class that fit the need. I mean, obviously Ashton Genty, I think he could play. He could go into any NFL scheme and be a successful NFL player. He's kind of like the unicorn of this class. So I think obviously he fits there. But a couple other guys I think make a lot of sense. One of them is Caleb Johnson. I mean, Iowa runs a ton of outside zone, so there's probably not a running back in this class who ran more outside zone in college than Caleb Johnson. He's not my favorite by any means in the running back class. I like him. I don't love him, but I think he just fits really well into kind of what we think they're going to be running. Um, and other guys as well. I know, Omer and Hampton, he's been getting some buzz to Chicago in the first round, especially if Ashton Genty's off the board. Could the Bears take him at 10? Could they maybe trade back and get him? I think he's more, I have the scheme fit there is more versatile. I don't think he can kind of similar to Janty, where he can kind of fit in any scheme, but he can definitely do that outside zone, that running that I think they want to do. And he's a little bit bigger. He's got the speed. He's kind of got everything you want. So I'm curious,
There's
kind of your thoughts on him, on where you see him with the Bears.
I think he's an outstanding fix. I think he's such a versatile runner scheme wise.
Mhm.
And there was actually a really interesting article that came out from a Sumer Sports today that was talking about how running backs who were pretty multiple in their run schemes in college tend to be better in the pros,
Mhm.
whether they're going to a scheme that's very specific or a scheme that's more versatile. And I think Hampton fits that to a T where like he can kind of do it all and he can read it all. That's one of
Yeah.
the things that's so impressive in his tape. He had I it's actually kind of funny. I was chatting with my buddy Danny Meehan about running backs, just on and off throughout the last like month. And I was talking to him about Hampton. I was like, man, I swear this dude has the fastest processor I've ever seen. Like it's like he
Mhm.
sees something and he hits it instantly. And Danny's like, Q, he's predetermining what he's doing. It's not processing. He just has already decided, but he's never wrong. He
Yeah.
sees the field so clearly and sees what defenses are doing so clearly. It's really impressive and really something that I think would, like you said, if it's an outside zone heavy scheme, I don't have to worry about him in that. I think
Yeah.
he's going to be really good in whatever scheme he's in.
Yeah, it's funny with Hampton because I know there are some people that are a little bit lower on him. I think we're both relatively high on him, but I view him as a first round prospect. I think he'd be worth
Mm-hmm.
maybe 10 would be a little bit of a reach, but not egregious. If you could trade back and get him, great.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
don't love any running back at 10, but like in this draft class, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place of like, do you want one of the guys who's going to come in and be a difference maker right away while still having a chance to be a blue chipper? Because if that's
yeah,
what you want, you're taking a running back. Like if
right.
you want a guy who might be a blue chip in 2 years, but might not give you anything this year, that's where you start taking D line, like
Yeah.
and like O line is somewhere in the middle, I think. But
And
um,
and Ben
it's
Johnson has said that we were going to compete next year. Like
yeah,
that's what he said. Then that I mean maybe he's just saying that to say it, but I think that's actually kind of what their goal is. They're not It's not a rebuild. They want to compete next year, and you're going to get more out of Marin Hampton next year than you are. Well, guys we'll talk about later, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, like those guys. You're going to get much more out of Marin Hampton, so it makes
yeah.
sense.
Now, otherwise, I mean, if you're talking a bit like late, like I think we need to talk a little bit about Quinshon Judkins,
Hmm.
and this would be more like second round idea. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm starting to wonder if we might see 3, 4 running backs off the board before pick 39, just because
Possible.
of I think what like we just said, teams are gonna be saying we don't really like a lot of what's here, but we know we like this running back.
Hmm.
Some years are just a little different with that, and Judkins is a guy who I think a lot of people target at 39. I really like his tape and his upside. It did take me, we talked a little pre-show. It took me a little
Hmm.
bit to warm up to it because the first few games I watched was like I thought he was a power back. I thought he was just a power running back and like wasn't really that explosive. Didn't have that much juice laterally. But then it was
Yeah.
like I got to the playoff tape, and the playoff tape forced me to go back and watch some Ole Miss tape while I was at it, just to verify that it wasn't like a fluke. But
Hmm.
as I was getting into both those, it was like, okay, this guy has more wiggle than I thought, and this guy has some serious bursts. I think the combine proved that up. But Steve, what were your initial thoughts on Quinshon?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit lower on him, and maybe it's we like we talked about before. Maybe I have to go back and because I don't know if I can't remember the last game of his that I watched. I think I did stop watching him before the playoffs, so I have to go back and watch those playoff games. But yeah, I saw a guy who was a bigger back who didn't really create a lot of yards after contact, not really like elusive. And it's weird because going into his tape, I remember watching him at Ole Miss or like hearing him at least just not all 22, but just Ole Miss football games and saying, "Oh, this guy's like a really good athlete. This guy, is elusive." And then when I was watching his Ohio State, I was like, I didn't see that at all. He's not very elusive. He's kind of a bigger back, and he's trying to run guys over, and he's not really making guys miss. So I wasn't very high on him. I have to go back and watch him a little bit more. But yeah, and the advanced stats kind of back that up too with his yards after contact. Was pretty low. Elusive rating was pretty low, but I think it makes sense. He's still a productive college running back and with good size. He tested really great at the combine too, so I think that kind of eased a little bit of my concerns. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and yeah, I do think there's a chance he goes, before 39. But I think it's also a very good chance that he's on the board. And he's on their list. I think another guy too, his teammate Trevion Henderson. That's kind of the other reason I was a little bit lower on Quinshon Judkins is because watching Josh Simmons and the offensive lineman, I was, you see the running backs running, and I was like, this Henderson is way better. Well, is better than Judkins. So I'm a little bit higher on him, and I think he kind of fits a little bit maybe that more to what they want. Just a little bit more explosive, I'd say. I know Judkins tested really well at the combine, but if when you watch the tape, to me, Henderson was the much more explosive player, and I think that's what Ben Johnson and them are going to really target. We kind of reminds me of what he had a little bit in Detroit with blanking on
David
the
Montgomery
no, not Montgomery.
with Jameer Gibbs.
Jameer Gibbs. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not saying he's Jameer Gibbs, but like a
Yeah.
little bit more of that explosiveness, a little bit better pass catching back and stuff like that.
So it's so funny how this Ohio State backfield is such a Rorschach test for like
Hmm.
scouts right now, like running
Yeah,
back, like people who are watching running backs, and it's like it just what you are valuing really seems to show through. And there's no right answer to it, right?
yeah.
Like both these guys are very skilled, very talented backs, but when I compared the two, I was sitting there going, Travion is one of the best pass protecting backs I've ever seen. Like
Yeah,
he
very good.
is at the college level. He is incredible at it already. He can play all three downs, no question. He's got all the athletic tools that you're looking for. Like you said, that burst is wild. But I tend to value ways that running backs can make the offensive line right when they're wrong.
Hmm.
And I look for creativity. I look for guys who are finding lanes that other running backs aren't necessarily finding. And I didn't think Travion did a lot of that. I thought
Okay.
Travion kind of hurried up onto the behind his blocks and rushed it a lot more than I liked. Which is this is nitpicking at this point, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about an incredible athlete who can play all three downs. Like I compared him here to Lamar Miller. I think that's a very nice like you take Lamar Miller a lot of times when you're drafting a running back because like that's a
Sure.
very consistent, steady player. But with Judkins, I saw a guy who he's going to lose yards on occasion a bit more. But man, that vision, he found stuff that was like I do not think a lot of backs find, and he capitalized on it, especially in that playoff run. And that's
Yeah.
why I ended up higher on Judkins. And I think that Judkins is more of a versatile back because I think his vision plays in any scheme. Where I
Yeah.
think Travion needs a bit more of a dictated path.
That's fair. And I think that's a good point you bring up too, because if you look at what the Bears currently have right now at running back, DeAndre Swift is kind of at least supposedly that explosive, just pass catching running back. Like they probably more so need more of that guy who can pick up tough yards, keep the offense ahead of the chains, pick up 4 yards when you need 4 yards rather than maybe he doesn't get you the 20-yard run, but he gets that 4 yards, 4 or 5 yards every time, those tough runs that like you said, he finds running lanes that aren't there. Like that's not DeAndre Swift. So that's not
Right.
what they have right now. So in terms of what they really need, in terms of just looking at their current roster, yeah, maybe Judkins would be more of kind of the way they go, and then thinking, well, we kind of already have that explosive guy with Swift. We did see some explosion last year on the big plays. Some of our
Yeah.
biggest plays last year were in the run game with Swift. So getting him out into space. But yeah, he just it's getting him out into space is the tough part. But once he's in space, he's actually pretty good. And I think a guy like Judkins or maybe a bigger back. I'm just looking at like Damian Martinez is another guy. Maybe not the super most athletic guys. He'd be a little bit later, but guys who can keep you kind of
Yeah.
ahead of the chains. And
Now, someone mentioned me the other day. My buddy Danny Meehan mentioned he was like, if you miss on the top backs and you walk away with Damian Martinez and Jaden
yeah,
Blue, I'm
yeah,
I'm happy with that. And I kind of agree. I think Jaden Blue is a pretty tailor made. Like the way I described it was he is the Michelob Ultra version of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like
right,
he's not Jahmyr Gibbs.
yeah,
If you're comparing like Bud Heavy to Michelob Ultra, Bud Heavy is Jahmyr
yeah,
Gibbs. Michelob Ultra is
yeah,
Jaden Blue. Like,
yeah. And the Bears had Eric Bieniemy was at the Texas Pro Day. Why is your
yeah,
running backs coach at the Texas Pro Day unless he's looking at Jaden Blue? So there's definitely a connection there. And I do think, yeah, I would not rule out the Bears drafting two running backs potentially. If a Martinez and a Blue, a Judkins and a Brashard Smith, like get two guys who are, very different players, who kind of give you different looks and everything like that. So yeah, unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out.
yeah. And let's for the sake of time, let's move this along. But
Yeah,
I mean, I know like Devin Neal is another guy, RJ Harvey, another guy who I think might fit.
yeah,
There's so many guys in this
yeah,
class. So make sure to check out our running back episode if you haven't already. We talked through them
for sure.
all. But moving on to tight ends. And so really I don't think Colston Loveland is where like I think you have to take him at 10 if you want him.
Yeah.
Same with Tyler Warren. I don't think he's in play there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation to have with these top tight ends because we've kind of both talked about this. We don't think that that's what the Bears will do, but there's been some smoke there at least. So I think it's worth kind of having that conversation on like what that would look like if the Bears did draft Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, um, at at 10, because that's where you have to probably take both, or
Yeah.
maybe you can get Loveland in a trade down. But to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to draft Tyler Warren. We can keep this pretty quick talking about this, but as much as I like Tyler Warren, I think he's a very good player. Just I think he's too similar to Cole Kmet. He's better than Cole Kmet, but he's just too similar. In my mind, if I'm drafting a tight end that high, if that's my only option, I'm trading it back and getting Colson Loveland a little bit because I think he provides more juice as in the passing game. And I think he's still developing as a run blocker as well. I didn't think he's not on Tyler Warren's level there, but he's developing. He's younger. I think he has the potential to turn into a
He's
decent blocker, plus with a little bit more potential.
he's not on Warren's level from a like physical capability standpoint as a blocker,
No,
but this is one of the nastiest blockers at tight end
he
I've seen.
he yeah,
He
he
wants to
tries.
kill
Like
people.
he wants the want is there, and I think he's only 20 years old. If you put 10 pounds on him and get
Hmm.
him just like his technique dialed in, like he could be a good uh, blocking tight end in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him turning into a George Kittle type blocker where the size
Mhm.
might not be ideal, but like you know what, that it's all there. Like the
Yeah,
guy wants it so
for sure.
badly. Now talking about guys who might be available at like pick 72, because I think
Mhm.
that's really where you're eyeing this more is you got like a Harold Fannin, Elijah Arroyo. Fannin is an interesting fit to me because I
Mhm.
don't think like he's a willing blocker. He's not
Yeah,
big enough to be a good blocker, and he's a very different football player for the tight end position. Like he needs to go to a team that recognizes that they're going to have to use him a little differently to get to capitalize on his skills. But like he
yeah.
is very talented, and I'm curious to see if Ben Johnson sees that as a fit or not, as like
Mhm.
an offensive coordinator who's going to say, just give me different talent, and I'm going to find a way to make it work, or do I want my traditional two tight ends?
Right. Yeah, he's interesting because the tape, the production was there for sure. I think he had like over 100 catches or was close to it, and tons
He
of
broke a
yards.
bunch
So
of records.
broke a bunch of
The only
records.
guy
Yeah,
in college football to have more catches and yards than Tyler Warren this year. That's
yeah.
including wide receivers.
And he's 20 years old too. He's really young. So he has production. He's not like a fifth year senior at Bowling Green who finally put it all together or something like that. Like this guy is in his third year. He's had 2 years of really good production. He's 20 years old. I like the Isaiah Likely comp there that you have on the screen. I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, he's not a traditional wide tight end, but you can use him as an H back. You can use him as a receiving tight end. You can use him. You can split him out wide. You can do a lot of different creative things with him. And Ben Johnson's a very creative head coach. So I think there is in play there. And I think Elijah Arroyo, who you mentioned before, both those guys would kind of be in play. Elijah Arroyo is another guy who's on the younger side, but more of a receiving tight end. He played out wide a lot or in the slot a lot, I should say, for Miami. Um, I think he's a guy who has a ton of potential. He's not nothing is really he's not pro ready. I would say like not like nothing.
Right.
Maybe you can get him in like the screen game, get him some like scheme touches, but he's really not pro ready at all. But I think he's a guy you can draft in the third round, and he could be your second, third tight end, and then eventually, when Cole Kmet's contract's up, you have kind of that replacement in place. So I think that's a possibility as well. Those are two guys I think make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on Arroyo as well. I'm a little like I do think they're gonna go like my gut says they're gonna go more traditional with a Mason Taylor or
Yeah,
Gunnar Hell. Maybe that's they trade down and get a fourth, and that's where they're targeting those guys. I feel like I'd like that a bit more for
yeah,
than at 72. But like Arroyo will it's a good test of what Ben Johnson sees his offense as being. What is it more
hmm,
weapon oriented or is it more within the realm of what he wants to do? Because both Fannin and Arroyo are strong weapons to add, but they're
yeah,
questionable fits on a run heavy offense, I guess I would say.
yep,
Now, going to like a Mason Taylor. This is one of the most interesting tight ends in the class to me.
hmm,
Jason Taylor's son, Hall of Fame defensive end. Um, like 6'5", I think, 250, 6'4", 250. So he's got size to play in line. He's got size to be a good blocker. I don't think he likes contact. Like
yeah,
when I watch him, I feel like I'm watching a guy who dominated 7-on-7 his whole life, but never
yeah,
got fully comfortable with the contact of the tight end position. And
yeah,
that's not just blocking, that's also downfield, like in routes. I feel like he
hmm,
gets rerouted fairly easily and he doesn't handle physicality at the route stem that well. Um, but he is a really good athlete and a really good pass
hmm,
catcher. Got really natural hands. So like, I mean, I made a comp for him today. I don't have it in here yet, but I said Mike Gesicki was where I see him. I can't type it in right now, but Mike Gesicki was kind of my comp for him as far as like he's a really good receiver and really good pass catcher, but I don't know if he's ever gonna figure out the blocking side because I don't think he
yeah.
likes it. I don't think he likes being a blocker.
Yeah, I haven't watched him, but you lost me at he doesn't like contact. I'm out
Right.
on him.
So
Like,
that's what's weird about it, right? You hear
yeah.
that and you're like, I'm out, but then you're like, but it's Jason Taylor's son, and you're like,
That's-
oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Like, hang on. Like, this guy doesn't have to be like this guy has spent his life saying, I want to play football. He has money.
right.
He comes from he could have done anything he
True.
wanted. Like, so then I pause on it at that point. I'm like, I don't know. Like, and Mike Gesicki is where that's kind of my compromise on it for his comp. It's like
Yeah.
it's a guy who never quite lived up to what he could have been,
Yeah.
because he couldn't stay on the field because he couldn't block, but he's still a good tight end. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with him. And I don't like my gut says Mason Taylor is not a great fit for Ben Johnson. No
Yeah.
block, no rock. Like he wants to be
Right.
bruisers and be kind of bringing it to people. But they met with him at the combine, which kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think especially at combine meetings, not so much to the top 30 meetings. I feel like the combine meetings are more to get that feel on those
Mhm.
guys. Like, okay, let's talk to this guy and ask those questions, like why, we've noticed these times you were shying away from contact. Like, why is that?
Yeah,
More so than like the top 30 visits. Top 30 visits,
yeah.
you're gonna be more
Were you
interested.
playing through a broken rib or like were
Right.
because
Exactly.
that
So
starts to make it add up more.
yeah, so I think that makes sense. But I will say, just in terms of the tight end position in general, I think the Bears will draft a tight end, in this draft. Like, I think that's a position that they want to upgrade behind Cole Kmet. Um, and like you said, it'll be interesting based on who they selected. Will give us a much better idea of what the offense is going to look like. If they draft a Harold Fannin, that's one thing. If they draft a Jackson Hawes, that's another. It'd be like, those are two very, very different players. Players we like, but it tells us a lot about what the offense is going to look like. So, which is just questions that we don't necessarily have the answers to right now.
Yeah, speaking of Jackson Hawes, I mean that is this. I made my video for him today. There's only one catch in there, and there's no one within 5 yards of him catching that football, and there's a reason for that because he's not out there to
Yeah.
catch the football.
That's an O lineman,
Yeah, I mean
essentially.
he's like 6'4", 255 or so,
Yeah,
but this dude just, I mean, he wants to put you in the dirt. It's
for
fun
sure.
to watch, and like if he, I would love for them to pick him. I think he's a 5th round pick.
Yeah,
Like I don't overdraft him, but like he would be telling as to what you want the offense to be. And then the last guy I'm going to mention here is Gunnar Helm, who I think is just going to be a good tight end in the league. I hate his blocking, but I think he's willing. So like I think you can teach that. And he tanked at the combine, and it was later revealed that he, dis- destroyed his ankle on a fault on the 40,
yeah,
and like he tweeted out a picture of his ankle the size of a 16-inch softball, and it was like, okay, well, I guess that's why your athletic testing didn't match the tape.
right,
But as we're going along here, let's move along to offensive line, Steve. And
right.
where do you
Now
want
we're
to start
talking.
with this one? Like, because they have their 5 starters. Like
Yeah,
he's an upgrade at left tackle, but like you're really talking about a developmental piece, a guy you're talking maybe he starts in a year.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect place to be in this draft class because there are a few guys who I think can start right away. But for the most part, there's a lot of guys on day two, second round, and third round that I really like if they have a chance to develop. So I think there's a lot of I still want them to pick an interior offensive lineman on somewhere on day two, because you have an old left guard and an injury prone right guard. So you need to have some sort of like a assurance there. So there's a bunch of guys I like. If we want to start on the outside, we want to start with tackle. Um, though, just because I think if there is one position that you are going to upgrade as a starter position, it's left tackle. I think Braxton Jones is going to be your starting left tackle next year, most likely. But like I said, if there is one position, it's that one. So you're looking at Will Campbell potentially. I'm pretty sure Will Campbell will be there at 10. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a guy. I mean, obviously, a guy who fits from an athletic standpoint. If we're talking about what they're looking for, like we said with the running backs, I think they're going to run a heavy outside zone. Will Campbell has the athleticism to do that. It's just with how comfortable you are with the arm length, which has been a big discussion today on Twitter. He did reach that 33-inch arm length, but his wingspan's still crazy small. So just kind of what. But in terms of, like I said, in terms of athleticism and fit, it makes a lot of sense. He's a guy you could draft to potentially take over that spot. Yeah, other guy, Josh Simmons is probably someone who's talked about a little bit less. He had a lot of news on Twitter today as well. I think the Bears really like him. And I really like him too. It really just comes down to, apparently there's some effort concerns. I don't really know like how to describe the effort concerns. Like, is the off the field stuff, not so much allegations or anything, but just does he really love football kind of thing. But that's not what I saw on tape. It's not what I saw, when on Brandon Thorne's Trench Warfare podcast, which is great. Everyone should go listen to that. Josh Simmons was really impressive on there. And then it comes down to the knee injury. Obviously he had a was it patella tendon injury, I
Yeah.
believe it was. He's come back. He actually had his, a little bit of a workout at the pro day today and was actually moving a little bit for a guy
Yeah.
who's only 5 months out of surgery. So if he can prove that he's fully healthy, I think that's would be a great pick for the Bears at 10. They, I don't think you trade down on him. I think if you like him, you just take him at 10. And I really like
Yeah.
Josh Simmons. I know you do too.
If your medical team signs off on it, I
Yeah.
am perfectly okay with Josh Simmons at 10. And I mean, some of the stuff that came out today is surprising.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's smoke because that
Right.
was my initial thought, and then I got kind of I heard from some other people that there are some questions there.
Right.
So that's interesting to me because
Right.
like you said on the Brandon Thorne episode, it's like, holy crap, this guy knows his stuff. This guy's studied
Yeah.
and he's the best athlete in the tackle class. Like as
Right.
far
Like,
he is clear offensive tackle one by the tape, purely by the tape in my mind. I don't think it's close, but
yeah.
but some of those questions come up when you add on the medical side. You're like, okay, now that's another question,
Right.
and these questions are just piling up and piling up. And
Yeah.
if their medical staff signs off on it, considering the type of workout and type of work that they did on Darnell Wright a few years ago,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that the Bears put in their work to make sure that this was all clear because this dude has some special movement traits, and that's where the knee does scare me. It's like,
Yeah.
does he lose an ounce of that specialness? Because if he does, he might be a different player. But I'd put my trust in them if they picked him at 10 because I fell in love with this guy's tape the second I turned it on this year.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have access to the medicals. Well, we won't have access to the medicals
Right.
just as Twitter, you guys, Twitter scouts. So if they draft him at 10, I have to assume the medicals check out. And everything. And I think Josh Simmons is going to be a guy who's going to be very busy this next month, traveling for all these top 30 visits, because I imagine he's going to be a very popular name for all the reasons you just meant: the medical, his level of the game, all that stuff. Like teams are going to want to interview him in person, and I would be surprised if the Bears don't have a top 30 visit with him.
Yeah, me too.
If it comes out that they do not have a top 30 visit with Josh Simmons, okay, then he's probably off their board.
Yeah, I would think so. You need to get him in the building with your doctors, with your coaches, and you need to see how what makes him tick after something that what's been said today. Another guy I want to bring up who's more of a second to third round guy that I think they're going to target is Emory Jones Jr. Plays opposite of Will Campbell, plays right tackle. I believe he has played left in his career, so he's got left right versatility. I think he's a guard. Like, I think this guy, I think he can play tackle. I don't think he has the discipline to stay at tackle. I think that he would just be a mauler at guard. This guy plays angry. He plays fast. He plays aggressive. He's big. He's fast. He's strong. He's athletic. I mean, I watched his tape and I went, I feel like I'm watching Tyler Smith again from Tulane. Or I think it was Tulane. Or no, not Tulane. It was
Tulsa.
Tulsa. From Tulsa, because like this guy he's sloppy, but man, he is a different athlete and he can just overpower people. And you throw that at guard, I say we're cooking. Like that. That's where I'm sitting. And a guy who doesn't have to start right away. Get him when you're building with the coach. Let him figure some stuff out. Work on some stuff, and like then I feel like this is a guy. Joe Thuney goes down. You feel okay putting him in physically, and if you have to simplify stuff a little bit, you do it. But like the upside is huge to me for him.
Yeah, I need to watch more of him, but I think that makes a lot of sense. He's athletic, and I know they're going to want athletic guys. So yeah, you got me at the Tyler Smith comp. Now I really need to watch him.
I mean, he just bashes people. He's sloppy, but so is Tyler Smith.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, a bunch of these guys you kind of see on the screen here kind of fit. One guy who maybe we should talk about a little bit, at least mention a little bit, who doesn't fit is, I think, Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker is probably going to be my interior offensive line number one. I don't think there's any way in hell that the Bears draft him. I just think they're with his athletic profile, like he needs to be in a very specific scheme, and it's not going to be the scheme that the Bears run. I'm pretty
Yeah,
confident of
it
that.
doesn't
So
work next
as much as
to Drew Dalman, right?
it
Like
doesn't work next to Drummond, so he's a great player. He's probably going to be a really good player in the NFL. He's just going to be with a different team. But other guys kind of on this list too. I think Josh Connolly makes a lot of sense for the Bears. I view him actually, just a step down from Josh Simmons, but very similar in terms of prospects. Guys who are just light on their feet, really good athleticism, maybe a little bit raw, but there's definitely building blocks there. My problem with Connolly is I don't see a way that a guy that athletic gets out of the first round, and the Bears aren't going to take him in the teens, So you can hope and pray he drops the second round. I know in mocks he's there sometimes, but I just don't think that profile gets out of the first round. But I do really like him. I think he will be on the bar, and I do believe the Bears did meet with him either at the combine or
combine,
top third combine
or
visit with him.
they might
So
have done top 30 actually.
yeah, I know they met with him at some point, so they definitely are interested. I think Arianti Ursu is another guy who really fits what they do, and I think he is a guy who will probably be there at 39, or at least has a chance to be there at 39. I Quinten, you agree based on your scheme fit there. I like him as a guard too. I think he has a potential to potentially stick at tackle, or at least maybe swing out there if you need him. But I think in terms of a guy who maybe has that flexibility, who has the athleticism, that he gets out of his stance so quickly and is able to execute all these different reach blocks, get his head to the inside shoulder of three techniques on the backside of outside zone. Like, it's really impressive, and he moves really well for his size. And I think that it just makes so much sense for him to be a target for the Bears. I view Wyatt Milam a little bit similarly as well, probably a little bit lesser of a prospect, but maybe a guy you get potentially get in the third, or who could be a target at 39 or 41 as well. But I view those two guys, in terms, Ursery's higher, but Milam's a little bit lower. But in terms of projection, I view them similar. I guess I should
Yeah,
say.
I mean, I think you and I are both a little higher on Milam than the consensus,
For
but
sure, I'm definitely higher on this consensus.
yeah, and I mean with Ursery, he's a unique player. I had such a hard time with his comp. I put him to Talisi Fuaga, and I still don't even like it. Like it's just
It is,
he's different than a lot of guys I've
yeah. You don't find that, but guys that size with that athleticism, and Fuaga is that size with that athleticism, so it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Fuaga is probably a better prospect, but I don't hate it. I think there are definitely worse comps out there for
Yeah.
sure. And then
Now,
Savionea too, if we want to talk.
oh yeah,
I know we want to talk about him. The Bears met with him right at the combine, I believe.
yes, yeah,
Yep. And he's another guy who tested really well, and I thought the tape matched up with that. It wasn't. I think he tested maybe a little bit better than I expected. At least, but he still, the tape showed a guy who can execute those outside zone blocks and do a lot of different things kind of on the move. So I really like him for the Bears. I actually had him. I think if you watch that video that I have, we don't have to watch it up, but if you watch it, I think I say that I have him as a top 32 player. And that was a few months ago, and I don't know if that's going to stand, but it's going to be close for me. I know I'm higher on Savanea. I think he'd be perfect for the Bears at 39 or 41. You play him, you stick him at right guard, especially if Jonah Jackson is injury prone. He's been injured pretty much every year since for the last couple of years. So he gives you a really good backup plan there as a just in case, and he also gives you someone who takes over for Jonah Jackson, in a couple of years, and he also does provide that right tackle versatility. Obviously, he's not going to replace Darnell Wright, but Darnell Wright goes down with injury. Hopefully not, but if he does, you have a guy who can kind of slide in there who can do that as well. So I think he makes a lot of sense for those.
yeah. I've said for years and preached for years, like take offensive linemen who can play 4 different positions, and he's one of them. Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't want him playing left tackle, but like
No.
he has,
Right.
like there is
Really
something
has,
there if he has done it. I think the floor is really high on a guy like that, and on him. I mean, I've said before, I'm a little lower on Savanea than a lot of people are or were coming into this process. Now I see him in mocks sitting around where I think there's more value for it. Like when he's sitting there in the third round, I'm like, okay, well, I can get behind that. Like I just
Yeah.
didn't like him in the early second, and like I do think his floor is very high. So like I would be all for him somewhere in the draft as long as the value fits.
Sure.
Now let's get into a little bit of the defensive line. and
Mhm.
start off with defensive tackle here. And I want to open this up with a guy who we don't hear much about, Derek
Mhm.
Harmon.
Yeah,
And I comped him to Christian Barmore, and I saw Akeem Hicks all over his tape too. Akeem was such a violent football player. I have a hard
mhm.
time comping people to him because of it, because no,
Sure.
like it's no one's going to be as violent as Hicks was with the Bears. I don't know if I doubt Hicks was that violent with the Saints. I doubt he was
Right.
that violent with the Canadian university he played at,
Yeah.
but like body type and just skill set is very similar to Akeem. And Christian Barmore is nothing like Christian Barmore is a hell of a football player too. So
Really good.
like I mentioned to some friends of mine the other day, we were talking and we've been going in circles like Ashton Jeanty, Will Campbell, Michael Williams at 10, like which one? No one likes any of them, any of the options. And it was like, how about Derek Harmon? Everyone kind of just was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I could like Derek Harmon, and I think he's going to be a real consideration at 10. I really think that he makes a lot of sense with his versatility to play a little nose tackle if you need him to, play three tech if you need him to. I think he can play both spots, and I think he fits really any scheme in the NFL. I think he's going to shoot
Mhm.
him up boards faster than people realize because I think all 32 teams will say, "Well, he fits us." Yeah,
Yeah.
that automatically improves his draft grade, and like the wildest thing to me when I'm watching his tape is like this dude is just now learning how to play at this weight that he's at. He weighed
Mhm.
40 pounds heavier at Michigan State last year. So
Right.
like he was a plotting nose tackle and he's not anymore. And so some of his tape was a little like iffy to me because it was like he was kind of feeling out how he could even play at this new weight. And
Right.
the more I've watched, the more I've thought on it, it's like the more I really like Derek Harmon.
Yeah, I love guys in the college who or something like that, they where maybe he loses weight and moves to a different position. But I also love guys in college who play out of position, who maybe like they're a 300-pound nose tackle in college, and then they go to the NFL and get to play more like three technique. It's because you've proven that you can do play the position that you aren't really suited for. So when you go to a position that you are suited for, like you kind of take that next step. And yeah, I really like Derek Harmon as well. He's my second defensive tackle in this class. I
Me
have
too.
Mason Graham and then Derek Harmon. Then I have Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan and Tyreek Williams kind of after those guys. And I don't think it's particularly close, to be honest. I think he does everything really well. I mean, a lot of the things that you said, he rushes the passer. He has some of the highest, pass rush run rate for a defensive tackle in this draft class. He stops the run. I mean, he's violent. He has length. He's got size. He went to the combine and tested really well. And I saw a tweet today that he actually dropped like 4 spots in the consensus big board this month or something. And I'm
No
like, I
one's talking about him.
why is he dropping? Like his tape was good, and then he went to the combine and tested as an elite athlete. So like, what do we? Why is he dropping? Like, what is happening? I guess it's probably just other people are passing him because people get to tape. But man, I don't. I think the Christian Barmore comp is a great one. I think, and if you get that, if you get Christian Barmore at 10, that's a steal. If you can trade down and get him, that's even better. But yeah, I think he should absolutely be in play for the Bears in the first round. He gives them a true threat kind of on the interior that I don't think they really have. I think it allows Javon Dexter to kind of fill it more into a backup role
Mhm.
coming off the bench, which I think is. And I mean I still like Dexter. I think he is a starter. He can be a starter in this league, and he's still kind of an ascending player. But man, if you have him as your third defensive tackle, I feel so much better about
You
him. Like
tell Dennis
it's
Allen you can kick this guy out to defensive end anytime you
that too.
want. He can be your Swiss Army knife, your mismatch nightmare. You know that
Yeah,
they have a backup right tackle in there who can handle power. Dexter is
yeah,
perfect to beat that. Like that,
right.
that's beautiful.
And then you have Grady Jarrett kind of coming in as just an assassin on third downs. Like that's a really good defensive line rotation that kind of turns a something that was a huge weakness, but it turns something that you think you're good at right now, you're fine at right now, into kind of a strength of the team and kind of gives you an
Mhm.
identity on defense. So, man, I would love Derek Harmon in the first.
Yeah. Now, Darius Alexander. Where is Darius Alexander going to go in this draft, Steve?
It's it's tough. I don't know. He's like one of the guys that I cannot really project, and I keep on moving him up and down my rankings, like as I try and like get guys in a set order, and like he's been as high as probably like 5 or 6. He's been low as like 10. Like it's just all over the place. But his tape this year and last year, he's got even kind of 3 years of pretty good tape. Is It's pretty good, but the problem is he's 25 years old. He's 25 years old and he played at Toledo. So how much do you really take into account what he did put on tape this year because he's a grown man going against future accountants? Like
Yeah.
that's tough to do. But I think he ends up going in the second round. I don't think he gets into the first because of his age and kind of some other things.
Yeah, like
But
there's
he's
no
really
way the
athletic.
Rams don't take
Yeah,
him. It's like
yeah.
in the
I mean,
second round. Like
and
they
he'll have
love
an eight
proven
sack.
guys who are going to have an impact right away. Like that's
Yeah,
him.
and he'll have an eight sack, rookie year and probably get eight sacks a year for a decade. But yeah, I mean, he's really good, and it kind of reminds you of Braden Fiskey went 39, I
Mhm.
think, last year, which is the pick the Bears have, and he was also a 25-year-old rookie, and that worked out pretty well for the Rams. So maybe that does, that case study that it exists. So maybe teams will be like, okay, we're kind of willing to overlook his age, and like I said, it's not like he was a 6th-year guy who finally put it together. He's had a couple good years of
Mhm.
tape, of solid tape. So I if the Bears picked him at 39 or 41, I'd be ecstatic for a lot of the same reasons I talked about with Derek Harmon. I think it gives you kind of a presence in the interior that allows other guys to kind of fill into roles that maybe suit them better. And I think he is NFL ready too. Like he comes in and he's starting week one, or at least in a heavy rotation week one.
Now, I do think that I think whatever defensive tackle they take probably needs to be able to play nose because they
Mhm.
like that you need that backup nose and a guy who fits that who I know you're pretty high on is Jordan Phillips.
Yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about Jordan Phillips and then get to one to two more of these nose tackles before
sure.
we move to edge.
Yeah, he's another guy. This guy, we just talked about a guy who's 25. Jordan Phillips is 20 years old. So he's only been in college for 3 years. He'll be 20 years old, I believe, on draft day. He's one of the youngest in the entire class. But yeah, he plays nose tackle. Played a little bit shade nose for Maryland, and the tape is really good. I mean, he's got that quick twitch athleticism. He's got power. He's a kind of like just a lump of clay that you can kind of mold into kind of what you want him to be. I think he does fit best as a nose tackle, but I think he can play some three technique as well because he does have, when he wants to, some good burst off the ball. Sometimes he is slow off the ball, but when he does, get it right, there's some burst there. Um, so I think he can play, one tech. He could play three tech. You kind of move him around a little bit, and I think it's all potential with him. If you're going to draft him at 39 or 41, and that tells me you want him to play right away, and I don't know as much about that. But if you draft him at 72, or if you have like if somehow he's there, and I think 72 would probably be in his range. So probably 72 to 100, I would guess,
Yeah,
is
that's
where he
where
kind
I'm
of comes
thinking
off the
he
board.
kind of sits.
Yeah, so if you get him in that range, then I like that a lot more because you can kind of play him in a rotation, year one with the hopes of, Andrew Billings, maybe moving on from him next year, may potentially, and then him kind of taking over that role as your one tech, and a guy who can kind of move around. So, uh,
Yeah.
but I like him in the third.
Now, another nose tackle who I want to bring up is CJ West out of
Mhm.
Indiana, local kid, went to Nazareth Academy in Chicago. And man, I I love this kid's tape more than I have any right to. He has the second best film grade of any defensive tackle in the class for me.
Wow.
Which
I,
that's not ceiling grade, that's not like versatility grade, but that's the film grade. It's one part of
mhm.
it. But he didn't do anything poorly on tape necessarily.
Yeah.
He didn't make mistakes ever. And it was like Indiana went from like the 102nd or 103rd ranked defense by PFF grade in 23 to like
Mhm.
the third ranked defense in 24. What changed? CJ West came to the team.
Yeah.
This dude was a problem for Big Ten offenses. You could
Mhm.
not run the football on him. He had enough burst to make an impact as a pass rusher. I don't think he's going to be a great pass rusher in the NFL. I
Yeah.
think the combination of short arms and just not a lot of moves. I think he's kind of tapped out already on that. He can develop some more moves somewhere, but like he has
Yeah.
the athleticism, he has the burst too. But I don't expect it to happen. But that short, stout leverage frame that he has with his power, this guy's going to be a problem to run the football against in the NFL. I truly believe it. Like the upside comp that I have here is a Liam McNeil. Liam McNeil came in the NFL as a run stuffer, and then he dropped weight to become a 3 technique. If CJ West dropped weight to do that, I think he could be a problem of a 3 technique. But I like him at his nose tackle. I like what he does as a nose tackle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I wouldn't want him. I would say, hey, we know what we're getting with you, and we want that. We want you to just get in there and stop the run, and we're gonna get that because he's an NFL ready run defender. Like from day one, he's gonna step on our team and be able to stop the run, and because that's what he did in college. And I really like his tape too. I don't know if he's gonna have my second highest film grade, but he's gonna be up there. And I think this is such a deep detail class. It's probably the hardest deep class that I've been trying to like rank, but because I think every time I rank it, like I do it, and then I'm like, oh my god, I have CJ West like that low. No, he can't be that low. But it's just like such a deep class. But yeah, no, NFL ready run defender. I do think I agree with you. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite pass rusher, or maybe even anything more than an average pass rusher. But if you can be an average pass rusher with elite run defense, that's a very valuable player. And he is a guy who I would potentially consider with one of those second rounders.
I mean, I think you have a shot at him at 72, honestly. Like,
I mean, if you can get him there, even better. But I think like his tape is good enough where I would not bat an eye if they took him at 41 and be like, oh, awesome, we got CJ West, cool. Yeah. Like that's I wouldn't be too upset about that.
Yeah. Now I want to talk Alfred Collins, but we're short on time. I feel like everyone knows about Alfred Collins, so we're gonna jump straight ahead to Jamari Caldwell. And Steve, I know this is your guy, so go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jamari Caldwell so much. His tape is so much fun to watch. I have the BJ Raji comp on there, and I'm not the first person to give that comp. I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying that I think that there isn't a better comp in this draft class than BJ Raji to Jamari Caldwell. Just guys who are 340 pounds, but can move. Like he's 6'2", 342, but he moves like a guy who's 6'2", 310. Like he moves like a guy who's 30 pounds lighter. He's got a great burst on the field, but he's really a nose tackle who's going to stop the run first. But I think he has a little bit more pass rush potential than maybe CJ West does. He also has shorter arms, which is going to limit that. But I thought he had a little bit more burst than CJ West and some other guys, other nose tackles in this draft class. I thought he had a little bit more burst. Just a very disruptive player. It's a little rough around the edges, I would say. I think you described Emory Jones as sloppy. Sometimes it could be a little bit sloppy with Caldwell, but I think the athleticism is there, the size is there, the strength is there. Just get him in an NFL with a good defensive line coach, and I think he could be a really good nose tackle for you for a long time.
Yeah, there's a lot to like within his tape, and I like that he's still figuring it out as a pass rusher because the dude played edge rusher at Houston, which malpractice by those coaches, I think. But it's the guy is still figuring out how to play at nose tackle, and like he was really good already. Now, looking at the edge rusher spot, and I want to start this off with like a Jack Sawyer because I don't think they're going edge rusher at 10, like unless it's Michael Williams, and even then I'm like, when I'm sitting here really thinking about it, I'm like, Dennis Allen's defense doesn't need these he gets pressure without these freaky edge rushers.
Yeah.
So why would you spend the 10th pick on one? I mean, they did it with Marcus Davenport, I guess, but Marcus Davenport was freaky. Like I don't know. I don't see anyone in this class where I'm like pounding the table for it, and I'm like, I feel almost as good about some guys like Jack Sawyer as I do like a Shamar Stewart, like for different reasons, but like very similar, like project or a feeling of like I'm confident in that at 10. So like I know I can get Jack Sawyer at 39. Maybe I'll just take Jack Sawyer at 39 because I know Dennis Allen wants to play 5 tech, right? He wants his defense ends playing head up on the tackles almost all the time, and he wants those guys darting inside onto offensive guards so his defensive tackles can loop around, right? What that means that those defensive ends need to be able to play run defense against offensive guards.
Right.
Because if it's a run play and you have a 240, 245 pound guy spiking inside, he's going to get blown out of the water. That's a massive rushing lane. Like, so Jack Sawyer is one of those guys who fits that, as is JT Tuimoloau. Steve, what are your thoughts on edge outside of those two guys?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I mean, we kind of know There's some question marks on the offensive side. What is Ben Johnson going to do? We know exactly what Dennis Allen wants at his edge. There's 15 years of data points to know exactly what Dennis Allen wants at his edge. It's exactly what you just described. So as much as we might love those bendy 245-pound edge rushers because their
They're
highlights are
fun.
sick
They're
and they're
fun.
fun to watch, they're probably not in play. So yeah, Jack Sawyer, JT, Tuimoloau, I think fit that to a T. You kind of know what you're getting with both those guys. You're not going to get a double-digit sack guy most likely, but you can get an 6, 8 sack a year. Maybe they get into 10, once in a while. But you're getting that, and you're also getting solid run defense. Like you said, they can play a little bit closer to the tackles, maybe even heads up on the tackles. They can stop the run. There's a lot to like in those guys, even if they're not a sexy pick. Like
Yeah.
I know, I'm fully prepared for the Bears to draft Jack Sawyer at 39 and be like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer. But he's a good
Yeah.
player who's worthy of the 39th overall pick, and that's kind of what I feel like. And I like Sawyer, JT fits that guy. Some other guys, Bears fans are I think are pretty familiar with like Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart in the first round. I agree with you. I don't think Dennis Allen needs that first round guy because we also just gave Dio at a I can't
Mm-hmm.
pronounce his name. Dio
Ingbo.
at Aimbo a
I don't
good
know if
amount
I'm
of money
pronouncing
to
it
kind
right.
of fill that role. So I don't know if you need to spend a high pick on that, especially if you're looking for a guy who's just big and can play that kind of 5 technique, over the tackle. Like there are guys throughout the draft who can do that. Sawyer, JT, I think Jared Ivey from Ole Miss is another guy who can do that. He's like 6'6", 285
I mean,
pounds.
look at
Like,
that comp, Dio Odeingbo.
yeah. Oh, well, that's great. Did I do that before? I think I did. I wrote that before.
I think so.
Oh, well, look at that. I didn't even realize I did that. Anyway, yeah, I think that would be a perfect a guy to come for things. I think you could probably get him at 72 as well. I'm actually really high on him because I also think when it gets to 3rd and 10, you can also rush it, move him out a little bit more in obvious pass situations and maybe get something out of him or kick him inside and maybe get something out of him there. So I think he's a fit. Landon Jackson from Arkansas, I think is a fit, but maybe not as good of a fit as maybe his frame would say. Like 6'7", 280 pounds. You think, oh yeah, he can play close to over as a 5 technique, which he actually did a lot at Arkansas. But I didn't love his tape in that role. I
Yeah,
actually liked
he
his tape.
wasn't as physical as I like. Or I don't want to say
Yeah,
physical. Wasn't as like stout as I expected him to be as a pass. He was
right.
much more of a like, I'm going to throw these pass rush moves at you. Not I'm just going to plow through you
Yeah,
kind
a
of
much
player.
more finesse player than you would think based on what his role was in Arkansas with his size. So I think he does still fit because I think you can kind of teach him maybe to be a little bit more powerful, a little bit more take on blocks a little bit better. But I think he's a guy. Other guys, Jordan Birch from Oregon is another guy who kind of fits that role. There's a lot of these kind of same guys in this draft
Oh,
class. So
do you have a video for Birch?
I don't have a video for
Okay.
Birch. I don't
I
think
was
we
gonna
have
say,
one
well,
yet, but
I was asking because it's not in here. So, and this
yeah.
is like our base library. So,
Yeah, yeah. It'll be in there before the draft. Don't worry. And
okay.
everyone check out the building the board because we have a lot of them in
Yeah,
there. But yeah, I think
this
he's a
what
guy.
I'm showing here on screen is what I dropped in the comments
Yep,
of the link to it. Like this is available to anyone to go look at. So, and
yep.
you can find all our videos and scouting reports here.
Mhm. I'm gonna shout out one more guy, late round guy, but I watched him this week and I really liked his tape. Tyler Batty from BYU. I think if you're gonna really just want a guy who can just do the little things to help you win games and maybe isn't gonna be a game changer, but he can be a rotation defensive lineman. I think Tyler Batty from BYU on day 3 makes a lot of sense.
I thought I put him in here. I'm not seeing it though.
I do have a video for him though. He'll be in here
Yeah,
soon.
I thought, yeah, he'll get updated in here. I thought I had him, but I guess not. But Steve, with that, let's go ahead and swing through a mock draft here real quick before we get out of here. And we will go ahead and turn this into an article as well in the next few days. But let's
Yeah,
see,
let's do it.
Steve, what do you mess with the settings at all when you do these?
No, if you turn up the randomness all the way, you can get Ashton Genty in like the 3rd round. But
Is
other than
that the one you posted the other day
yeah,
where it's like just like it was like
yeah,
how did he do
yeah,
this?
you just turn the randomness up all the way, and you get some crazy scenarios. But let's
Okay.
not do that for this.
So do you just stick with the
No,
public board all the
I
way?
usually just stick to what it is,
Okay.
even though it just let's see. Okay, let's see what we got. let's try. We assuming we're not going to do any trades here because we're kind of running low on time. So let's just kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Oh, not a good roll for us though.
no. So we got Graham off the board, Membao off the board,
Campbell,
Campbell,
Chinty. Oof,
Jeanty, Carter.
that's tough.
So
Well, maybe we take that back. Maybe we should trade. Well, maybe no. Well, maybe we take Derek Harmon. We kind of talked about that. Derek Harmon or Josh Simmons are two
yeah,
guys we talked about in this and said we think that would make a lot of sense. So let's see what it plays out with if we take Harmon here. How do you feel about that?
I love it. PFF is going to give us an F for that pick.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, so now we're at pick 39, and
we got a D tackle.
We have a D tackle already, so we're interested in a running back now. We're interested in probably an edge rusher. Let's see what's there at edge. So we got Jackson, Swinson, Tuamalu, Sawyer there, Ivy.
There's some options there, but let's go to running back. See, yeah, could be Judkins. We kind of talked about him. Could be him. Cam Scappo. I mean, I love Scappo. I think that's PFF has him way too high.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think they have Tootin way too low.
That's also true. Yeah. I think. Well, okay. What other position? If we're not doing let's look at offensive line. See what we got there. I'd say Ursery and Donovan Jackson could both be in play here.
Donovan Jackson is interesting to me here.
Savanea, maybe we can give it him later, but all those guys are Milam too.
I'm really leaning towards Donnie Jackson here, just because it's that gives you your versatility to play left tackle, to play right guard, to play left guard. Like he's got it all, and like I feel like there's a better chance of him sticking a tackle than other guys.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Right, let's go for it. And at 41, so are we thinking we got to be edge here, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think with these guys, thinking of the Bears, I think that's a little too high for Landon Jackson for me personally. I think Sawyer, JT. I love Braden Swinson. We didn't mention him. I think he's kind of on the borderline if he's a fit or not, because he's not as big as those guys, but he's a really good run defender and he plays with power. And I do think he can play, but I think that's maybe me just being a little bit biased because I love him so much. I think he wouldn't necessarily be who they take, but maybe one of the OSU guys, maybe Ivy. I have Sawyer over JT personally.
Yeah, so I will too. I haven't graded JT yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll have Sawyer ahead of him.
Yeah, so we could do that. We're not going to pick a running back because we would just look at the running backs.
Yeah,
and I think. What about like a safety here? Can we just look at the safeties real quick? It's not a position we talked about, but I think it's a sneaky need. I mean, Xavier Watts. Actually, I kind of do like Xavier Watts there. I know they like Andrew Makuba. That was reported today.
Yeah. They're like, I
probably
think
a little early for him. But...
My gut says they're going to wait on safety till 72, but they need a running back too. Like we're at the point where if we're not taking a running back here, we probably need to do it at 72.
I'd go Sawyer then. I like that. Ooh, CJ West. Where we got our D tackle?
Yeah, we got our D tackle though. And tight ends in play here too at 72.
Yeah, I'd say tight end, safety, running back is.
Let's see what running backs we have available. So we have RJ Harvey, Devin Neal. I'm not even really considering DJ Giddens here.
Ooh, I don't know. I like DJ Giddens. I actually think he really should be in consideration here. I like DJ Giddens a good amount. I'm not saying we have to pick him. I like Harvey and Neal too.
So I like Giddens. There's just too many spaz out moments of like, I feel like when he's not sure, he just freaks out and like that scares me.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit early for Damian Martinez, but we're not going to get him at the next one. So if we wanted kind of that type of back, to do that. Tootin, I think would be in play here too. Even though
he's Harvey a lot. I know like Neal is. I'm a little lower on him than everyone, but I still like him. And I think Tootin is in play here.
Yeah, I would say so too. It's tough.
I don't think we can wait for 148 on running back.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. I would say either. For me personally, it would be between Giddens and Tootin. I know you're low on Giddens, so let's just go Tootin or Jaden Blue too. I haven't watched as much Jaden Blue.
I think Blue is a fourth. Like you're reaching for him here just because he's a passing down back. Like it's going to be a hard time making a career out of being every down. I like Tootin here.
I like Tootin. I like this draft too because it's not it's definitely not one that I've seen a lot, like this scenario, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And we're going off the PFF board, which I think more people should do. This is my guy Tyler Badney. Did we draft an edge yet? We did. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we did. I like Mitchell Evans
Mitchell
here.
Evans, Billy Bowman
Um,
too. Um, yeah, I think Mitch Evans. I like Kyle. I think Kyle Williams is gonna go higher than this.
yeah,
I mean, we could take him, but he's his.
I love Jackson
Uh,
Hawes, but if you're
yeah,
giving me Mitchell Evans or Jackson Hawes, I'm taking
yeah,
Mitchell
I'm taking him.
Evans.
Yeah. What about another offensive lineman? What do we got there? Like we could go with like a Seth McLaughlin if you want kind of like a developmental center.
Yeah,
You're
Nemery Jones
your guy in here.
Jr.
He's too low in here too.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think he's too
I haven't
low.
watched him like as closely, but I feel like 186 is too low.
Yeah, just based on traits, I think alone.
Yeah,
Like a guy like Logan Brown's probably going before this too, just based on
yeah, probably.
traits. Um,
All right, let's go with Mitch Evans. I think that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, Mitch Evans it
I mean,
is.
that gives you I mean, Cole Kmet light for sure. See, this is
And
why,
then
I know we picked a 10, but it would be really nice to have that fourth round. I feel like we
yeah,
really could have used a
well, I
fourth
think I
rounder.
think 39 or 41 is going to be a prime trade down spot to get a fourth
Yeah,
rounder because like I don't know that you're going to be able to do much at 10, but like
yeah,
I think if you want a safety,
yeah.
Malachi Moore.
I
Like
like Hunter Wohler too from Wisconsin. He's a little bit
okay,
of flying over the right. I like both those guys, and I'd probably go
Wohler.
Moore
I feel like
over Wohler.
so. If Malachi Moore is here, it's because his back injury is like terrible. So
Yeah,
let's go with Wohler because I don't. If Malachi Moore's back injury is okay, he won't be here. I don't
sure.
think.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
let's
the
go.
last time the Bears drafted an Alabama safety with an injury, it turned out
Yeah,
pretty well with Eddie Jackson. So you never
yeah.
know.
And then
All right,
last
what
pick of
else
the
we got?
draft. I
What do we
mean,
even need still? We can go any direction. Maybe another offensive
I
lineman.
don't even think you draft for need here. You just draft for like, oh, that guy's
Yeah,
here. Okay.
yeah.
Like I mean, I always think like you draft in the 7th round, you go for safeties, you go for O line
Linebackers
or
or like
linebackers.
special
Those are the
teams. Yeah,
three because those are the three that are like guys fall through the cracks constantly
right.
and
Yeah,
they're hard to evaluate.
you're not drafting a pass rusher at 240. Like most,
Yeah.
like any
Yeah.
good pass rusher
Yeah.
is long, long gone.
So like I could get
Joshua
behind.
Gray, Kane
Yeah.
Madrano. They met with Kane Madrano
They did meet with K
and
Madrano.
he's really athletic. And
I know nothing about him.
I've
He's
only
just on my
watched him just from
list.
watching other USCLA guys and just kind of having seen him pop a little bit. So I like him. Not Dante Schrader. We would drafted a safety, right?
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can go really any direction here. I don't know some of these other linebackers like
Man,
Kieran Reed. I have not
a
watched
part
at
of me
all.
just wants to go Woody Marks,
Woody
man.
Marks. I mean, what was their running back did we draft again? I can't remember.
Tootin. So I feel like that's all very
Yeah,
like
yeah. No, if
it's
anything, you'd want
similar.
maybe like a bigger back or something.
Let's see what running backs are there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Um,
I would
yeah.
go with potentially Joshua Gray here.
I mean, I think Gray is a great pick here. I just don't think he's here.
Yeah,
But we can go with it. I
I think there's
honestly
a
I need to
possibility.
watch him. That is entirely based on what I've heard. That I don't
I mean,
think he's here.
our assistant line coach just comes from Oregon State.
Yeah,
He,
let's just do it.
yeah,
Then
I think
yeah.
it makes sense. He could play guard, center. He played tackle. Well, he's not gonna play tackle in the NFL, but
Yeah.
it's gonna give
All
us the
right.
worst possible grade. We did some
Oh,
reaching. D plus, bottom 3%. I respect that. I'll
it's
tell you what,
so bad it's good.
realistic. This is a very realistic mock. People are gonna come after us and say this is the worst mock they've ever seen. I stand by it. I like it.
Honestly, so I've every mock I've written so far, no one has come at me for it, and I try to do them as real as I possibly can. Like I'd never
Yeah,
try to like give in to the like, well, I can get this guy here. Like I really
right.
try to be like, well, that wouldn't happen. Like
Right. That's the thing. Like people like do these mock draft simulators and it's just like who can I get to fall to me? I'm gonna run 15 mock draft simulators until I get player A to
yeah,
fall to me at this pick, which I have done before in the past as well. So I'm not calling anyone out. But yeah, this is very realistic. I think it makes a lot of sense for kind of what they do, and man, I think it's pretty good.
yeah, I'd be thrilled with this class.
Yeah.
Like flat out, I'd be so excited. I think the running back, I don't know how you're going to handle short downs. But I mean,
Yeah.
I guess Roshan is your guy, like
Right.
through and through. Roshan is your power back, but like, I mean, Tootin is gonna be fun in a Ben
Yeah.
Johnson offense. That is a
For sure.
different level of athlete.
Absolutely.
But Steve, any final thoughts on the Bears draft class, on anything Bears related before we close this thing out?
No, I think we covered it all. I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, listening, however you're consuming the content. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys. And make sure to check out all of our scouting reports over on our Building the Board homepage. You can find it pinned on my Twitter account. Yeah, I'm trying to post it as much as I can. It's in the comments here, and it will also be in the podcast description. So make sure to check that out. And Steve, let's get out of here with a good old bear down.
Bear down.
Bear down.